All right, I am excited to introduce you to what I consider the new and improved Red Ryder, the 1999. And we're going to start, unlike some unboxing videos that don't talk about what we need to take care of here, is the problem with this model is when it's new, it doesn't mean every single one, but when it's new, you can get trigger jams. Now, I know there are belligerent types out there that don't understand the engineering, but it happens when the gun is new, mass-produced parts, it's breaking in. And I would say I did notice this model is more heavily lubed. I had actually oil leaking out of here and at the anchor point for your spring, and that's good. I'm glad Daisy did that, but we're not going to take any chances. We're going to double down and oil more. And I repeat, is these trigger jams happen when this gun is new with this model. Once we get you through your first magazine of BBs, which is about 600 shots, you're in the clear. And then you oil your oil hole, and I have other videos for that, and go through the lever slot right here to oil. So I've simplified things with the friend's help. As a smart engineer, he knows just keep it simple. It reduces the likelihood of something going wrong. We don't take off your stock. We don't take off your trigger. We just take off your lever. And so that is your oil point to get on the back of this plunger. And we're going to do that with this dropper. We're going to come in just like an angle like that and squirt it with Ballistol inside your gun. And we're going to cover this right now, right away, because I have not shot this gun yet, and I'm not shooting it until I get this done. So, Ballistol is a very friendly oil, and we'll get to that in a second. So we take the nut off first. This has been loosened, so we just loosen a little bit more. And be very careful not to hurt the paint job. There is slightly sloping metal there, so be very careful with that nut and putting it back on, not to press hard. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and take that off. Okay, so right away, because everybody knows this is a fixed channel. So in this case, with this model, we want to prevent it from jamming. So pull back, make sure you don't get this caught up on the trigger, pull back and up. And now in another video, I demonstrated with the aerosol. We're going to use the liquid version here. Okay, and our target is, again, right there, the plunger right there. That engages your trigger. And we're not just going to oil it and set it aside. We're going to cock the gun and fire it once, and then I tell you, you go ahead and go on a shooting session and work that oil in. It gets all over the trigger, gets all over the internal parts. That there's metal parts engaging the frame of the body, and it's actually easier and better in many ways come through this spot. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate one more time. We're going to come in through this spot right here. Okay, and we're also going to lube the catch points on this plastic right here. This will help, and Ballistol is not a threat to plastics or any type of rubber that's mineral oil resistant. So it is safe to use on a power plant, but we're not going to cover that in this video. We're going to make sure you have a good time and don't suffer a trigger jam. So we're going to oil here. You can go ahead and do that right now, and go ahead and rub that in. There we go. So that catch point is all oiled up. And then one thing I noticed with these droppers, sometimes it doesn't quite work how you'd want to, because in this case it's a little too fat and it can't get in here. So we make a mess trying to do that. So then don't be bashful. We're not dealing with the power plant, folks. We're dealing with the back of the gun, and anything that's excess will just run down the gun and get on your stock and wipe it off. So get it all over that metal plate and back, all over the bottom and in front of it. And don't be bashful about it, because you're talking about preventing a jam with very fine oil. Okay? Now that would be way too much for the power plant, but we're not doing that. Okay, so we oiled the back of that plunger. We oiled the catch points on your lever. It is plastic, but good Daisy plastic. So let's put it back together now. And we will compare with the standard Red Ryder why I'm excited about this. Okay, so then let's put it back together. All right. Okay, and then with the nut, now also, and go ahead now, make sure you go ahead and cock this right away. Well, I'm going to do it just so I make a point. I want you to put it back together and then go on a shooting session. But it depends, because I'm going to use a Loctite. And so what I'm going to do is, when I do this off camera, is put it on that screw right there and let it set for a day to make sure that it doesn't work loose, that the nut on here stays put. So, but anyway, so we just oiled this pretty heavily, so let's go ahead and cock it. And the reason we're doing that is because we want it all over your trigger and your piston sear, and it gets all over the internal parts. And then, all right, and remember, this isn't a Magnum spring gun. It can withstand occasional dry fire. And then, okay, and then I would go ahead and say, think about going on a shooting session. I'm personally going to Loctite this. I'm going to put this on here like that, and then put it back together and let it set for a day. Now, some of you that may not like Loctite, or you don't think you need it. So if you feel that you don't need it, then you just go on a shooting session. I'm going to choose to be patient and wait for that Loctite to cure. And be careful, there's sloping metal right there, so just make sure that when you're using tools, especially Loctite, you just use the head and do it just by hand, and you won't scrape off any paint. Okay, so I oiled it. I cocked it, got it all over the moving parts in there. Any excess that rolls down, I just wipe off the nice plastic stock. Okay, so also, in this case, we're going to use aerosol to clean the gun. It did a great job on the wood on my Red Ryder, my traditional Red Ryder. Okay, it does a great job on plastics. It beautifies plastics, like the black plastic, like on my 1322, even better. Okay, so then you just wipe things down, and does a great job on plastics, and it's something to do every time, well, brand new and after you go shooting. So it does a great job. Great plastics. Ballistol doesn't hurt any of that, just protects it. So I'm excited because this gun's ready to shoot now, and I'm just going to let it sit for a day, and I'm very excited. Now, comparisons real quick to the end of the video to the old Red Ryder is that wide loop is so nice. You're not going to bang your hand into this. I don't have huge hands. If people with big hands are going to be so happy, because when we go into Fantasyland and we're the sheriff chasing after those outlaw cans, and you really get shooting with this, I mean, even my hands, and I don't have big hands, you bang into that and it starts to wear on your fingers. Also, the standard Red Ryder, which has a black front sight, this one I upgraded. And so, again, in broad daylight, it's like a laser on your target. In low light conditions, you can shoot targets in the dark as long as you're shooting from inside a lit room, which I've done. So great stuff, really bright, like laser on your target in the bright daylight. And I always tell people to go ahead and set your sights up all the way on elevation, and it'll give you nice 20-yard accuracy. And when I say that, I mean you just literally put the sight just above, let's say, the bottom of a pop can, and it'll hit it. And it's good at other ranges. So I just encourage people to do that. So anyway, huge improvements that coming with the fiber optic sight and having that nice wide loop. Beautiful, beautiful plastics, and I'm excited to shoot this, and I think it is an improvement over the standard Red Ryder. Thank you.